I think there are two important ideas driving the current federal policy environment, and one is alignment with U.S. policy. Because the Canadian and U.S. economy are so linked, because of concerns over Canada's carbon-intensive, trade-exposed sectors, the federal government has decided to align Canada's climate change policy with that of the United States, including alignment in terms of emissions targets. The other sort of key idea in the federal approach is the regulatory approach. So the federal government has really chosen an approach of regulating key sectors to meet its GHG emission targets, as opposed to using fiscal tools like a carbon tax or market tools like a carbon trading scheme.
The impediments to individuals, homeowners, investing in energy retrofits in their property is challenge getting a loan, guaranteeing the loan, the rate of the loan, the matter of, well, what if I move? Is it worth doing all this work if I'm only going to be here for 5 more years and the payback is 8 years? So the idea of a system not run by a city, owned by a city, but facilitated through the city, through our tax bills, that you or I could do retrofits to our home and pay that back through our tax bill, facilitated by the city, backstopped by the city, but if structured well, at no cost to the city.
You should be asking yourself as a person, how do I do my fair share? You should be asking yourself, how can my community do its fair share? Municipal governments, provincial governments, and federal governments need to all be asking themselves, how can we do our fair share? I think we all know that the federal government has pursued what's probably a reckless and deeply irresponsible approach to climate and clean energy policy. But that does not mean that the City of Ottawa has to, and it also does not mean that the City of Ottawa can't say, this is what we want to do and we want your help. It's the same thing they did with the Ottawa River Action Plan, right? They said, we want to build this. We want to get the sewage out of the river. We'll put up our fair share, and we want the province and the federal government to come through.
Looking into how we can attract young riders to use our service. If we can find out how we can make our service cool to young people, we can give these young people early positive experiences about transit, which could result in them becoming lifelong users of our service. We're exploring opportunities such as Wi-Fi in our fleet to attract them to our service.
Mindset where the thinking is combating climate change is a drag on the economy, I think is an old way of thinking. I think it's an improper way of thinking. I think there are tremendous economic opportunities involved in combating climate change. It'll make our city more efficient. It'll create new jobs. It'll create new industries. It will make us much more attractive on the global scene here. So I think these should be seen as investments and not costs. So
the Confederation Line project is forecasted to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by approximately 94,000 tons annually by 2031. It's also going to reduce criteria air contaminant emissions by approximately 4,600 tons annually in the same year. Further, integral to the approach to the design-build procurement process that Council adopted, the light rail team focused on a triple bottom line. So ensuring that the project itself contributed to reduce the environmental footprint, to respect the city's fiscal framework, and to produce stations that contribute positively to both the social and cultural vitality of the communities that they serve.
An analysis then, backed up by others, would say, shows that that by 2020, we will at best be about halfway to our target. About halfway. And that's counting literally everything that's on the table that is in place, and then literally everything that governments, plural, are talking about putting in place. So we're going to need a very big effort to go the extra distance. Anybody seeing that effort? Anybody feeling that effort? And I think that's the dilemma for
ecological zones. You might say, what does this have to do with climate change? Well, I'm sorry, but wetlands and trees and habitat are intrinsic to our carbon sinks. We can't lose what's there. And that creates the nature quality of life that our community wants. So make sure that protecting our ecological zones is part of that early start.